you are incredibly intelligent. You do a lot of research, and you come up with some really great ideas. And we're very, very lucky to have you as a city, and I see you pull these things out of the air quite often. So I'm grateful for that. And I also know that you're fiscally responsible, and if there's someone I would ever blindly follow into a major project, it would be Todd Moore. So thank you. I just want to start with that very much, and I think I just have like a few questions about it, and one would be who's paying the annual debt service on it would be the first question. Has that even been discussed as per proposed?
It would be part of the city's budget, I guess. Now I've been trying to get my word in edgewise here, and I just before I get too old, I'm just going to say it broke my heart or pissed me off when we were talking about fundraising by having activities that these out-of-town people rent our facilities for. When we have kids who we're worried about because they're on the streets and they don't have anything to do. And we look for solutions to problems like that. And here we're so close to it. But we can't have some phony facilities or some inadequate facilities for it. I don't understand why we don't feel that we can do this. We need the form follows function, and we aren't 100% sure what the function is, but I know that the form has to be a regulation, a good sized facility. We want to expand what we do. We want to have the purple pickles from Middletown or pickleball. We want to do things that change and different and increase what we offer our citizens. And I agree with Todd. I don't see how we can be so close but to turn away. We won't have this chance for a long time to do this, and we got to do it right.
Kathy, I appreciate your words and your passion, and I just want to let you know that I do agree with you that we do need to find a way to make the gym happen. It's an important and critical part of the project as a whole. I don't think that there are many people in this room who disagree with that, but finding the funding is the real piece that we have to figure out, right? So I guess one of my questions to the school board is, I know that when we first went into this conversation, we were talking about how much ARPA funding the city had and how much ARPA funding or ESSER funding the school board had, and so my question going into this conversation of funding is how much available funding is left in your ESSER fund, or has it all been allocated? Is there nothing that, because we're talking about taking, $10,000 a piece away from organizations that we give CDBG funding to, and this sort of thing. So,
hey, you know what? Knock the walls out of the Manchester Motel that's been closed for years now. They get a gym. The city already owns that.
We're talking a lot about making sacrifices to other budget items in order to fund this gap. And so my question to the school board is there anywhere that you all have more money to allocate to this? Because I know that we haven't spent all of our ARPA money yet, but that's not something that we've talked about yet. And certainly...
We're talking about a match, right? Is that correct?
Well, when we initially, it was my understanding when we initially came into this that the amount of money that the school board was putting in was higher than the amount that the city was putting in because of the amount of funding that you all received relative to the amount of money that we received in our ARPA funding. So I know that is something that historically we considered when we were matching funds. So I just want to put that out there as well as a historical reference to how we got to where we are.
Well, part of our challenge, though, is when we allocate that money up front, in order for us to be able to legally participate in this project, part of that is for 50 years we have to be obligated to financing some type of programming at the facility. So all I was trying to do is figure out how to, as far as a creative remedy, that's what I'm really trying to get at here. It's not a perfect remedy. I feel the pressure too, even going into it this far. Most of you know that I am very fiscally responsible and I am very conservative when it comes to numbers, but to get this close again, but to answer your question, Ms. Denny, because we are obligated to participate in some form, that obligation, I'm trying to figure a way to get that obligation to be part of financing that gap that we have. Since otherwise, let's say for instance that we just had programming there Well, we've got programming there, but it doesn't actually, it's not tied to the facility in any way. So our justification here for educational purposes, we have funds that we could pull from that would go towards funding this, so it solves that problem.
These are non-ESSER funds.
Non-ESSER funds, yes,
The
because those
ESSER,
funds
the
are,
ESSER funds don't have the same restrictions of having programming attached, correct?
well, no, we are obligated to provide programming under that ESSER
Okay.
fund. So that initial money up front,
But that money doesn't necessarily have to be spent specifically on programming.
But that money's pretty much been spent.
it's
with the
been
exception
It's
spent.
all
of-
spent.
This would be us funding that obligation
Trying to find somewhere else to
post-ESSER,
fund it.
yes. So as
Okay.
opposed, I mean, again, I
And you're
think
saying that's where you would find the matching funds to help
yes,
us with
because
the
either way, we
obligation?
have some, yes, that's right, because either way, we're obligated. In some way, shape, or form, we're obligated. So why should not that funding that's obligated go towards finishing the job?
Okay.
That's
And
what we're trying
then,
to get
and then
towards.
we're suggesting a 50-50 split on that, is what you're,
That's what I would be proposing. Yeah, I would never be able to ask council to go, if we cannot, in reasonable terms on both sides, finish the project in reasonable terms, I would not make this argument tonight. I would not do that.
I'll just add, our ESSER dollars, I don't know why we're on different time restrictions. We have a year left to spend our money down to zero. Well, you've got-
I just wanted to make sure that that was part of our funding conversation
Mhm.
today too, just so that that is very transparent and that everyone understands that, so that when we talk about matching, we're all on the same page.
Yes. And this is, and again, post-ESSER, this is our fulfillment of that obligation. Again, we have no contract. We've never engaged in a contract.
Right.
So this gets us closer, again, to actually having a contract, having a discussion about what the numbers are moving forward. You know, think about it in terms of new board members coming on. I mean, now we've actually got a budget aligned to the community center. We've confronted what those numbers will look like in real time. We have an obligation. We have some data to work from. We have a real budget to work from, as opposed to right now, we don't know what the numbers actually are. This gets us closer.
I just wonder if such a community center would be turned into a genocide facility or a COVID camp, something like that.
But the outcome would be, again, I'm trying to be creative. The outcome, and as opposed to just having random fragmented programs, we could actually, this money would be allocated towards helping fund that gap. So it's an efficient way to meet our obligation as we're involved in a project and obligated towards a project for 50 years.
I certainly think this is something that we'll have to discuss further with staff, just of understanding, again, where that money is coming from, because I'm sure that we've got organizations who are thinking, oh gosh, I hope it's not me. I hope I'm not the one getting cut. And that's a tough decision to make.
And
So
that's the real challenge in all this. You know, I mean, let's be honest. There's no way to do this without making some sacrifices. I mean, that's really that's the whole, I don't see any other way. That's why I'm trying to get us to a point where we can share the pain, but there's no magic bullet here. It would require some tough choices.
And we've discussed our ARPA funding, but there's still,
If it's an option that the city puts more of our ARPA funds to this project, the schools would cover this.
Well, we would have to discuss what that number would be, but yeah, we're still obligated either way. We have to provide programming at the facility, so that would be the goal. Figure out how close can we get to that number.
Can I clarify? Maybe I'm starting to realize what's actually being proposed a little better. Is that 200-some thousand up there with different rates? Is that the debt service
Yes.
or the loan? Okay, now I'm starting to see the part. And you're proposing that we split that debt service annually. Is that the? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
And that debt service, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, does that come out of the annual amounts that they receive, or is that a separate payment?
It's however it's been set up.
Okay.
So if the city were to use 50% of their formula allocation for that debt service, then that's what comes out.
Okay.
So the city could, in theory, use our annual CDBG funds to pay that
What's
debt service
yes,
if we want it.
specifically, that's what it has to do that. I don't. Does it have to, like, could we choose to use a different fund, or does it have, okay, so it can be CDBG or other funds? Okay, could be either.
like, paid through our CDBG.
My understanding is it was kind of a
But it-
backstop. It was the last, if you didn't pay the loan, it would come out of CDBG. but maybe
That may also
It's,
be the
it's
case.
one of
Yeah.
many
It's
options.
one of the options.
Yeah, yeah.
So just some thoughts. You know, when we were originally on the roughly $11 million total estimate, I thought we were well on our way to being there without ever having this second conversation. I don't think anybody anticipated a 35% change over 6 or 9 months. So I just wanted to put that out there. Well, the numbers were, 6-9 months ago. We thought those were as good as we could get from the architects and engineers. Anyhow, we're going to be having a similar conversation in another hour and a half about the fire stations. And my thought on this project is I want to consider all options, just like I want to consider with the fire station. I want to consider the loan. I want to consider what does it look like maybe to have a lower cost gymnasium. That might not be where we all wanted to start at, but I want to at least see it and consider it. I'm not willing to shut the door or say no to anything right now. So my mind's open. I do agree getting 65% of the way and not being able to finish the job would be a punch in the gut. I don't think there's been a single project or discussion in my time on council that I spent more time on than this, and I would hate to get this far and come up short. But $5 million is a lot of money, so we certainly have a challenge in front of us.
I was going to propose, Tal, I would not feel comfortable going any more than $3.5 million on a project like this. Is that what we're proposing? $5 million I think is just exorbitant. For me, that's not even, I wouldn't be here arguing this point if it was $5 million. But if we can get somewhere at $3.5 million, for me would be the top that I would be willing to be an advocate for the project at that point.
Can you
So,
clarify what you mean by 3? Is that the cost of the gym? I'm kind of
Well,
getting lost in which number we're talking about.
the gym, yes. So if my hope is that if we were able to at least entertain this idea, I understand the challenge. I do. And it's not a perfect solution. I get that. But it seems to me that if we go to Cliffs and we have a commitment between the district and the city, and we need $1 million, that certainly mitigates the risk somewhat. If we're asking Cliffs 5 years from now for $1 million, I worry about that. I really do. Is it riskier 5 years from now with a project that never gets to completion, as opposed to looking at a remedy that's in front of us? I think the idea would be that we have to factor in that the good intentions of Cliffs, that we would have $1 million, and then we would be looking to close this 2.8 in some way, and that's where that match would come in. So it's not borrowing $5 million, $3.5 million. It's really looking at the number here on page 4, that 2.8, and hoping that we could get Cliffs to make a commitment if we can come up with some reasonable commitment towards the project. And I agree with Mr. Moon. We should be looking for every opportunity to minimize, this project in the best of our ability so that it's a reasonable amount. I think there's still work to be done on that question. But I'm hoping that we can continue to try to find a remedy.
I'd also like to add, I don't think I had it up there in a slide, that our board has been very committed to this project, so much that they've agreed that we will provide transportation for our students to get to the community center each and every day after school, all school year long. And that's quite a commitment. That's probably $150,000 a year that we're committing for transportation. The board has also agreed that we would take some of our kitchen equipment that we're going to replace, great shape equipment, to put it into the kitchen for the new kitchen, so that too could be a money generator. What's that fancy term? Type of kitchen? Incubator, thank you. And that's probably $100,000 worth of equipment we're going to put in there. So our board is very committed, not in the short run, but in the long run, to make this community center successful. That was something else we learned when we went to Westchester, looked at their club, that they had transportation every day, taking kids from every building out there. Of course, we don't take them home from there, but that's how you get the kids there, and it's very meaningful to the parents of this community to be able to do that. So it's a huge project. I know it's a huge ask on all parts, but I think it's worth searching out every opportunity we have to make it happen. And we've got to be creative, because I'm not